Let's move on then, shall we, to the main story of the day, because I think we've got our not normal guests watching. Hi, everyone. And the police, politicians, and local residents all over the country are praying for rain to stop the wave of rioting that we've had. There's no other word for it. They are not protests. It is riots. Rioting that was seen in Bristol, Rotherham, Hull, Manchester, Weymouth, Tamworth. We had yobs throwing missiles at police. We had fires being set in hotels. We had asylum seekers hunted down by mobs. There were Filipino nurses on their way to provide emergency cover at hospitals being pelted with rocks. And now Malaysia has issued a travel warning to its citizens coming to Britain on holiday or, say, to work in the NHS or the care system. Please don't do that. It's terribly dangerous over there. Jason, this is Keir Starmer's first big test, isn't it? This is the one that wasn't in the diary. It wasn't a scheduled policy announcement. You can't possibly say it was a plan by Rachel Reeves to, cut taxes or something else. So far, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen much of him. Has he? What has he been doing to sort it out?
I think that's entirely fair. He did a press conference on Friday where he took a lot of questions. And then he gave a statement yesterday, which wasn't a press conference, it was another statement. And he's holding a COBRA meeting today. So I think to say he's been, off the stage is unfair. He's been there. It is a test in terms of if it continues beyond a few days, then it looks like the government's not in control. And I think you could kind of, do you remember the kind of fuel protests at the time of Tony Blair's government when the tanker drivers went on strike? And I can't even remember what their grievance was about now. And there was a worry that the whole country was going to run to a standstill and this would be catastrophic for Tony Blair. And actually, after 4 days, they managed to kind of resolve a problem. If I was in number 10 at the moment, my concern would be: are we going to face a rough summer of rioting, or are we just facing 7 days?
Yeah.
And I say, the longer it goes on, the more damaging it becomes, because then you look like you're not in control.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember reporting on the 2011 riots, which again was in the summer because it was good weather until it rained and then went home, and that was sparked by, I think it was Mark Duggan and allegations of police brutality. But there was, that was kind of the other end, I suppose, of the political spectrum. They were younger people, not older people. They were more middle-aged, some of the guys who were writing this weekend. And they were sort of anarchists and a bit more left, anti-austerity. Lots of things got pulled into it, but it ended up just being thuggery and smashing up, Porsche car showrooms and stuff like that. Rob says they've only been in a few weeks. Give them a chance. Peter on Twitter says, smash the smuggling gangs, smash the far right. That's only in the first 2 months. He's got a lot of smashing to do. We've got this situation where, there's a huge amount of pressure on this. In 2011, I remember Dave Cameron had to come back from his tennis holiday in, where was it, Umbria or something, where he had his private tennis coach, and had to come back and look tough. And they would talk about water cannon and stuff like this. That's when Boris bought his water cannon, I think, that we never got used. So Keir gave this press conference at the weekend. The Home Secretary's been out talking about lots of stuff about smashing these people, about getting tough on them. And I think there's another prime ministerial holiday planned, allegedly, at the end of the week. I don't know if he's going to be going on it. But if it doesn't stop, if it doesn't rain, what can they do, really, about this?
Well, now that's a really good question. So on Friday, Starmer was quite interesting because he said, look, the key thing as far as we can see we need better coordination amongst the police forces, because the rioters are seem to be coordinating via social media. We'll come on to social media and its malign influence in a minute. But he said, we don't need new laws. We just need to enforce the existing laws. Now, the question would be, is if the rioting continues, And if these thugs continue to do the abhorrent behaviour, which you catalogued at the beginning, then there will start to be a clamour for look, is there more the government should be doing, whether it is knee-jerk or not? And you know, people will say, look, what about imposing curfews? Yeah. Are the existing punishments, whoever Goisel says, in terms of longer prison sentence, are they adequate? Yeah. So at the moment, they're kind of holding a line of saying, look, we think we can still deal with this in the existing laws, but there's a lot of anger out there at the fact that these people just seem to be getting away with it, and they haven't been cleared off the streets yet. And that, you know, that's where the kind of the political sensitivity is for Starmer, because that, you know, people want to see some sort of, they want to see justice now.
Yeah, but when you have things like this, people do start saying, well, yes, water cannons seem a perfectly reasonable thing to do. Whereas at times you suggest water cannon, they go, what? No, we're not that sort of country. But when people start rioting and there's, you know, looting, and you're worried about your own safety and that of your family or your home, you do start going, yeah, no, I don't mind the business going in boot first. That's okay. So Leslie says, well, the pensioners aren't rioting. Good point, Leslie. And I think also the some of the people who are rioting probably were not ones who recently made some decisions, you know, about which political party they wanted to support at the general election. I'm suspecting most of those who've been throwing bricks at the busies were not the ones who are at the ballot box recently. Mutt says the instigators are the government. I don't know how you have got to that point, Mutt, at all, because whatever is happening right now, if you want to say that the riots are due to failure of politics to address an immigration issue, right? If that's what we're saying, number one, that immigration issue is a worldwide phenomenon which no government's really got its head round. So it's a bit rubbish to just blame this one. This government is particularly new and fresh, and it can't possibly have done anything in that time to fix it. Just can't. Whatever problem you've got with immigration right now, whether it's asylum seekers in hotels, whether it's the rate of immigration or something else, that's down to the last government who did all that, right? So we can blame the current one perhaps for not arresting enough people or not jailing enough people or not cracking down hard enough. We can't really blame them yet for creating the problem those people claim to be rioting about. But I would just point out to Mutt and to everybody else that if you didn't have immigration, if you didn't have a level of immigration which people were complaining about, where would the far right be? These people, they wouldn't have a reason to exist, right? There wouldn't be a reason to riot. They need immigration in order to justify going out and doing what they're doing here. Tommy Robinson needs immigration in order to pay for his sunbed in Cyprus. Goisel says, send the thugs to Rwanda. The thing about Rwanda, Goisel, according to the new government when they went in and looked at the books, is that would cost £10 billion. That's 5 times your winter fuel payment to pensioners. Is that value for money? Really, if you think about it. And if you suggest spending £10 billion on that, where are you taking the money from? And who's going to riot if you take that money away from them to spend it to go to the Rwandan? What you're talking about is not you're sending thugs to Rwanda. You're sending all your taxes to the Rwandan government to do it. That's what you're talking about, okay? And I bet most people on those riots don't want any tax money, if they pay taxes, to go to a different government. They want it spent in their country. It's not going to happen if you have the Rwanda scheme, I'm afraid. Taze says, well done to my British patriot thugs. Okay, but I think we've had enough trolls now. But Taze, if you're a thug, you're not a patriot. Look up the etymology of the word thug, number one. And number two, this is not making Britain look good. And it is not loving your country. And the people that are out causing this kind of chaos are not the ones who are out with the brooms sweeping it up the next morning. If they love their country that much, perhaps that's what they'd do. If they were so bothered about protecting children, perhaps they'd be having riots or protests outside Hugh Edwards' court appearances. But they're not, are they? They're having a big fight with the police, who are not able to police all the other things they need to do while they're busy lamping these football hooligans. This is what's going on. The police are busy here, as we can see on this video. I think this is Middlesbrough. They've got a line of coppers there with their truncheons out, being basically head to with a bunch of people who want to fight with them in a car park. if the police weren't there, they could be out there investigating child abuse, whatever. Sorry, that was Rotherham. They could be out doing all the other stuff that we need them to do. Right? But because of these so-called patriots, they're in a car park having their legs broken. Right? That's not patriotism, mate. That's just having a fight with the busies. Shai says these are not child protectors. Of course they're not. Of course they're not. If they're child protectors, they wouldn't be taking their kids with them on the riot, right? I've been to riots. I've covered riots. The idea of a child being there is insane. It's only taking your own to riot. No, don't do it. Right, we've had enough of the trolls. They can go and play by themselves in the comments now. But what do you think? Everybody else out there who's not completely mad, what do you think about these riots and these protests? What do you want to see your government do to tackle this? Do you think that they have some kind of a legitimate point? I struggle to see it myself. And do you think that there should be more of a crackdown, something more obvious? And we've had about, Jason, I think about 400 arrests, but there's thousands of people that are involved in this. Some of them are getting bussed in and moved around, but there doesn't seem to be a really clear ringleader. It's not like there's one person, like one hate preacher that's going out and doing all this. We do have, though, lots of the usual suspects, don't we? There's Tommy Robinson stoking it from his sunbed in Cyprus at an all-inclusive hotel. It's been paid for by so-called patriots. Lawrence Fox has been viewed, I think, 2 million times on Twitter, blaming child rape on barbarian immigrants, without having apparently noticed at all what Hugh Edwards was looking at the other day. And there are laws, like Keir Starmer says, there's laws against inciting riots, against rioting, against entering hotels, against throwing rocks at people. There's talk of magistrates sitting through the night to try and process some of these people. But do we really got the jail places to keep all these people off the streets? I think if there's 400 arrests, we had, 1,000 spare places the other day?
I mean, look, I think we definitely need to see action taken against those who have instigated and stirred up hatred in this way. And it is, as Starmer said on Friday, this is a criminal offence. If it's on social media and you're doing this, that's a criminal offence. And I'd like to see not just the people making these postings, but also the social media companies held to account for what they're doing, because they are partly responsible. Yeah. I think, there is also a wider discussion to be had about the language used by politicians, because words have consequences. We know this. When Boris Johnson made his jibe about women who wear the burqa, comparing them to pillar boxes, following those comments, there was a large increase in Islamophobic attacks. There's a direct correlation. Now, some of these people, the politicians, say we're voicing genuine concerns. But if you voice genuine concerns with emotive and sometimes sensational language, you're not necessarily directly responsible for what we've seen on the streets, but you have given these people the grammar for what they're doing. And until we have more restraint and less inflammatory words from politicians, we're probably going to keep seeing this, because these people feel they have license. They don't.
Yeah.
And their behavior is abhorrent, and it's criminal. And they need to be called out for that time and time again. But we also need to say, what is the kind of, what is the environment, the political and social culture they're operating in, which makes them feel that they can do this? They are chanting "Stop the votes." Those words haven't come from nowhere. Yeah, there is a correlation between what somebody stands up and says, and in this case, it was the Prime Minister in Downing Street repeatedly for 14 months, and how people behave on the streets.
Yeah, like we just had comments. Someone saying, send them to Rwanda, because we've been told over and over again, sending them to Rwanda will fix it. But how many people know the cost of the Rwanda scheme, know how the Rwanda scheme works, know what you're paying for, know who you're paying for, know what you're, the contracts involved? People don't know all that necessarily, and they shouldn't have to. But if someone repeatedly says things, like you say, for reasons of sloganeering, and then they're repeated out at a riot where the people are lamping police officers. We saw in the election campaign, didn't we, how personally upset Rishi Sunak was about racism, especially when it was directed at him and his family. And here we've got racism that's directed perhaps at other people, but at people that look like him, and who is being directed by people who are uttering a slogan that he or his team came up with, and he made part of the public conversation. I cannot believe, I mean, I can believe, but I am amazed that he hasn't come out and said, that's not what we meant. I mean, he's lost the election now. He's not like he's got anything to lose, right? He can't just come out and say, no, this is not it. These guys are not on our side. And he hasn't, and he isn't. And the Tory leadership contenders are all having a bit of an argument about whether or not the political failure is that we need to be more what the far right want us to be. And that's what I find really terrifying. People like Robert Jenrick and Suella Braverman and so on are saying we need to answer these people's concerns about immigration. I mean, no one would say, well, you know, Hitler and his lot are terribly upset. We need to answer their concerns about the Jewish community.
Yeah, it's a completely fallacious argument. You can have concerns about immigration and don't have to actually, you know, put bricks through library windows and attack the police with violence or burn down hospitals.
If you took away every immigrant in the country, are those people out there rioting? Are they any happier? Are they any more productive? Are they going to work and paying their taxes and being well behaved and not getting arrested by the police? No. I'm going to go with no. I don't think they'd be any happier, personally. Goysel says, anyway, I have to go to work now while the rioters sit at home smoking weed, playing their PlayStations and waiting for Gyro Day. What a world we live in. There are lots of people that have been talking about this, and it's Labour's failure to stop the boats. And it's kind of the conversation that's happening in homes up and down the country as well, not backing Rwanda. But the riots don't have any sort of political bent. They're not out there rioting, discussing the 10 billion on Rwanda and whether it's value for money. They're just throwing rocks at the busies. Why don't we call this terrorism, Jason? It feels like terrorism. To some extent, it certainly probably feels like it if you live there, if you're the one in the hotel, if you're a nurse on your way to work, or if you're a copper and there's a rock aimed at your head, it feels quite terrifying. It is terrorism, isn't it? Or is this, you know?
I don't know, because I'm not a lawyer, what the legal definition of terrorism is, and there may be a reason for that, but I'd much rather just call it thuggery. I mean,
yeah.
Call it out for what it is. It's criminality. It's Don't grace them with anything.
But we've had
exactly what they are.
We've had governments that call sitting down on a motorway bridge terrorism, and they get jailed for 5 years for planning it. And if that's the case, you can argue about whether that's fair or not. But if that's the case, then surely inciting people on Telegram or suggesting or planning or sending out a flyer to go, let's go and have a riot with the police, surely that is, it's definitely a crime of some sort. But it merits a few years, I would have thought. We shall see, won't we, what Keir manages to do and how he cracks down on it. Anyway, let's try and clear our heads of some of this crap, if it's possible. Let's concentrate on the fact there are people in all those places now organising, going out with brooms and wheelbarrows and cleaning it up, because that's nicer.